you'd like to contact the show, send us an email at liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com or get involved in the conversation on social media. Join the Pearl Jam Podcast community group on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at liveonfourlegspod.
I'm speechless. Hey. No, it's you. Cheers to you. Cheers to everybody from the front to the back, to the sides, to the middle. I don't know how many aspiring musicians out there. There sure was a lot to inspire you today. With all the bands that played up here on this stage, just alone was X, Mastodon, Mr. Jack White, Gossip, and a couple others. Deus, exactly. Thank you. And for everybody out there who's a musician, all I can wish for you, well, I wish you a nice, healthy, happy, long life. Don't stay in school. And then, oh, my kids aren't here, that's all right. And then, but if you could ever, I wish for you that someday you stand up here and see something like this. It's really a beautiful thing, and we thank you. It's something else. Thanks for inviting us back. It's a dream. And away we go.
You're listening to Live on Four Legs, the definitive live Pearl Jam podcast, featuring
Mr. Stone Gossard. Fucking Cameron in the drum. Mr. Boom Gasper. You can call me Al, you can call me Ed, you just fucking call me, why don't you?
Hey everybody now, welcome to Live on Four Legs, a definitive live Pearl Jam podcast. This week we head into 2012. It's the final year of the Backspacer section here that started in 2009 and kind of lingers its way up the years a little bit. And then after this one, you'll get into their 10th studio album, Lightning Bolt, and kind of go from there, where Lightning Bolt has a lot more years attached to that album. But 2012 is not a huge year for Pearl Jam. And 2011, I think we were able to have a little bit more depth of conversation because of PJ20, because of South America, because of Canada. And 2012 kind of has this routine that Pearl Jam has gotten into at this point and will continue to kind of travel on a little bit, is that in June and July, it's Europe. They go to Europe during that time because that's big festival season over there. So they play a bunch of festivals. That's what we're going to talk about today is festival show. And then they wait until September, go and play a couple of shows in the States. Again, a lot of festival shows, and then a Missoula show that was basically a political rally. And that's it. There's not a whole lot. They're keeping it light before 2013 really turns into a massive tour year with lots of dates in the States. So the festival that we're going to be doing today is a festival that I think we've ignored for 370 some odd episodes, and that is the Rock Werchter Festival. Why have we ignored it? We'll get into the reasons. I mean, it's kind of significant here when you look at it. They've played Rock Werchter 6 times. And when you look at the set list of festivals in general, sometimes festivals will have little Easter eggs thrown in there and be like, okay, this is for the hardcore fan. But for some reason, the Werchter Festival, while very good shows, doesn't have those kind of talking points that are like, whoa, this festival got something really special on this night. They don't get talked about a whole lot, even though Pearl Jam continues to go back there year after year after year. It's just not part of the conversation. So we're going to bring up some reasons why, and hopefully not piss on the festival setting too much, but still, there's a reason why the festivals have a little bit of the stigma that they have, and it's worth discussing, especially because 2012 really doesn't have a whole lot of storylines attached. So let's dig down deeper into that. Randy Sobel over here, Javier Herbas over there.
Hey, everybody. I wanted to start the show just to give a big shout and thanks to David. Super cool guy, super kind. He always has had really nice interactions with me over social media. And I just wanted to say thank you for that feedback that he gave us about the 2011 episode. And those are the things that we're looking for. Those are the things that they really mean a lot to us because it's coming from one of the listeners that is just telling us, like, hey, I really like the format, guys, or maybe this is something that you can do in a better way, and that's exactly what we're looking for. This is the interaction that we crave so much. So David, thanks again for conversations about tennis, about culture, about music, and all of the stuff that we have been talking in social media. So I really really appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. David has always been somebody that has messages back and forth a lot. And he's an Australian guy, and he got into the podcast some odd years ago and has always been very, very, very supportive. So we really appreciate his feedback. And, just to throw it out there, we bring him up because we're not getting a lot of that feedback lately because when things are slow in this community and things are slow with this band, there's not a whole lot of camaraderie going on. But as time keeps going throughout this summer, we'll start to get the conversations flowing a little bit. We'll start to get talking about Ohana a little bit more, and we'll start to get the same type of feedback, hopefully, that David has shared with us. And it was just delightful to wake up to it this morning and read all of that and know that we are here doing something that is appreciated, because in the end, in the long run, that's all you want to do from all of your hard work, is just know that there are people out there that care. And sometimes when you don't hear from people, when you don't get the feedback, you don't get a response, you don't get Apple comments, you don't get YouTube comments, that runs in your mind a lot of like, why am I doing this? And should I still be doing this? Is it worth it? And when you see stuff like this, you see an email come through that's really appreciative of the things that you've done, the answer is unequivocally yes. It is absolutely worth it to do it, because there are people out there, even if it's one or two or three, that appreciate the stories, that are learning about this band, that are just enjoying the camaraderie that we have talking about them. It's absolutely worth it, because we get it. There are a lot of people in our lives that do not celebrate music, and not just Pearl Jam, but celebrate music the same the way that we do, in a very upscale, nerdy sort of way, in talking about set lists and talking about music history and music theory. It's a very small niche. And when you put the Pearl Jam community, that is a niche within itself, into an even smaller niche, there aren't a lot of those people to go around. So when we do get to hear from people, it is super, super, super appreciated. That's why I appreciate you shouting David out first thing in the show because it is absolutely deserved on his end. So thanks, David. Hope you keep enjoying the episodes, and we'll get to an episode of your choosing at some point in the future too, because that is more than worth it right there. So 2012, the storylines for this year are not really there. I think the biggest thing that happens in 2012 happens in Amsterdam, where you have this fan named Brian Farias who is a supporter from the very, very beginning, even before the beginning, because he goes back to Mother Love Bone. So they reach out to him and they're like, hey, you've been in this fan club for the longest time. You have the one of the lowest numbers. Would you like to create a set list for a show? And you give him that responsibility and magic happens. And that's actually the show that happens before the one that we're going to talk about in Werchter, because you have what is essentially a 90s love fest from this set list, starting with Wash and going into stuff like Alone and Footsteps and digging into Crown of Thorns and just things that have been significant in this band's history. It's not just a set list that, pays homage to the longtime dedicated fans. It pays homage to telling the story of their history. And it's really important to go back on. Not only that, but, the one song that he apparently had never seen live that he was begging for was Bugs. And even though Ed didn't have an accordion on tour with him, he still got it played. So that is one of the biggest moments of this entire year. And it's worth mentioning. But outside of that, yeah, you get good shows. Like Berlin is always going to have good shows. Manchester had Hitchhiker played at the second night. So, that's going to be a moment, even though it's not a great performance at all, it still counts for something. There are festivals in France. There are festivals at Isle of Wight, and they go back to Copenhagen, which is a really, really big deal. And then you go to the States and it's these festivals again. And I was at one of those festival shows, the Made in America Festival, and it was definitely not my favorite Pearl Jam experience because it was that crowd that you don't wish upon any Pearl Jam crowd that really did not know the band very well. It was a lot of college kids that knew the hit songs, and that was it. The biggest reaction came from Jay-Z. Yeah, when he came out to do 99 Problems, which I guess is considered a moment from this year, that was the biggest reaction. And I remember coming out of that being like, is it even worth it to go see them again? It feels like, you get bitchy once you're within and seeing them so many times and you've been spoiled. And I think that was my first show since PJ20. So yeah, all in between, but really not a whole lot happens. There's a Missoula show that's a rally for John Tester, as much of a rally as it could be. I don't think they were able to bill it as that because of the laws around what you're able to consider rallies, because there would have had to have been an equal rally for his opponent to get equal representation. And obviously Pearl Jam was going to cater to that at all. But that Missoula show, I don't know if you remember this, but the band afterwards said, this is an instant classic, a part of a new series. That's the Instant Classic series. I think everyone's like, what? Really? This? Well, okay. And you know what happens? They never bring the Instant Classic thing back up ever again. I guess that was the last great show that they've ever had. But it's just weird. I don't remember the last time I listened to that show. I know I've kind of pitched it for being on the pod some point in the future. And if somebody wants it, then we'll do it. We're very open for the end of the year at some point. But it wasn't going to be for this episode, that's for sure. But like not much else outside of that. It's really just kind of the calm before the 2013 storm that's going to happen.
And also you can address it as part of the conversation because like you were saying there may not be a lot of storylines, but one of the biggest things that I've always found so complex as a Pearl Jam fan, and now that I'm part of this community and part of this podcast too, is how can you give a fair rating or like a fair assessment to a festival when you have been spoiled with 30 plus song sets and craziness happening in shows like that? And you want to be fair too, but it's so challenging because you just want to give the right scope and you just want to give the right access to a band that you know that you have seen in a complete different universe. But also, you got to be fair with those fans that maybe they're not committed yet or they're not 100% confident that they can go and just enjoy one of their shows by themselves and they feel more comfortable like attending this kind of setting. And to even go deeper and beyond, sometimes for like the European crowd, this again, an insane and amazing crowd, one of the best crowds in the world. You have only the setting where you only gonna see them in a time slot that is extremely predefined, and maybe they're not gonna have the liberty to play everything that you wanted to hear. And even though that you have had visits, they have been sort of consistent over time, and this rock festival has a 40 plus year history, so like there's a lot of rock royalty that has made a few stops in those grounds. It feels unfair to really like, all right, let's be like critical of this, or let's make it a completely fair assessment for Pearl Jam and a festival, because I think that is a task that is very hard to get done.
Yes. And we've done the festival shows before, but I think we've kind of shied away from doing a festival that was as basic as maybe this set list is. And I think for most fans, you look at it and when you listen to what we're going to talk about here, you'll think, okay, if I got this, I would not see any new songs and it would not feel exciting to me. But also, you have the fact that the crowd is going to respond at a European festival as opposed to maybe an American festival where you're not going to get the intensity from your crowd. European festivals are built differently. It's that's why they go out there when they do. They want to play festivals out there. They want to see all those heads. It's like 40,000, 50,000 people, but also you keep going back there and it doesn't seem like you go to anything new after a while. It all just kind of runs together, especially this festival. That's why I've held back for so long from wanting to do anything because it just didn't feel like we were getting the best of what this band offers. So, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share some statistics for you guys and you'll kind of see where we're coming from here. So, first of all, they've only played in Belgium 7 times. And the first time they played Belgium was in Antwerp, and that was 2006. So, when they started to play Rock Werchter, it was 2007. And every year that they played in Belgium that followed, they played this festival. So, 6 shows. Altogether, they played 132 unique performances. So if you put all of these shows in a set list together, you would get 132 different songs. Averaged out to be 22 songs a night. There's most of these sets are around 20 or 21. 2014 is the outlier. It has 28 in the set list. It feels pretty big, but I'm looking through that set and there's like not really too many deep cuts. Your My Father's Son is really the one, and then you got River Mirror as an opener, and All Night. Those are really it, and then you have pretty much a standard affair for what a festival set is. But here's the kicker of all this: when it comes to different songs played, How many different songs played at this festival out of the 132 songs? It's less than half of that number. 61 songs have been played across 6 shows. That feels really light. And that feels like a band that is known for taking chances when they come to this festival feel like they don't have to take those chances. And that's disappointing because when you hear this crowd and you hear them react in this show, you're like, oh, they deserve some good stuff. That seems like a crowd that appreciates this band on a level that's not just the radio singles and popular songs. But that's not the approach. So that's pretty much why I've wanted to stay away from Belgium for this time because I didn't think that there would be a lot of conversation outside of what I just said. And there is. The performances at the show are pretty good. 2012, in terms of playing and in terms of the band being in a groove and being tight, like it's not like this tour year is a disappointment in that aspect. I don't even want to say it's a disappointment. It's not a disappointment. I wouldn't say it's that, but it's not memorable because the chances aren't there. They don't take the chances. And you know that they can, and you know that they should. So there's no lost dog. There's no deep cut coming out of hiding for the first time in 8 years or something like that. But the band is tight. And if that's what you like, and if that's what you look for out of shows is how they sound, you're probably going to like this. But if you like diversity, this is not going to be for you.
Yeah, and that's a pretty fair point. I've always wondered what's the connection, like what's the feel behind sitting down and writing the set? Because even though when you look at the statistics and there's so many songs that they have been played here consistently, it has to be some sort of a special connection, or it has to be some sort of memory that it has when he gets to this place and he's just going to be okay, well, this needs to be included. To your point, Randy, I completely agree with you. If you want to have one of those like stop on your track kind of show where you're going to find like really weird stuff or stuff that you don't listen very often, this is not the show. Performance wise, interpretation wise, and like how sharp and aggressive the band sounds, like this is it. Like it's a very good show when it comes to that. When it comes to the performances, there's a very high moments of the show. Stone Gossard is having a fantastic night here, as one of the examples that I can quote right now. But it's a very fine line when it comes to that, and it's unfair. It's I want to go back to the first thing that I said related to this. It's just it feels that you're gonna be very challenged when it comes to this kind of setting because you're not really analyzing the band in the setting that you should be talking to, which is like their own in their own like show for the night or the afternoon, whatever. But that's something that we wanted to explore too, because we didn't want to ignore this kind of setting or scenario when it comes to a European festival. So we're taking a chance here too.
It's all a part of the story. It all counts the same. It's all part of the statistics. So, yeah, this might be the first in almost 400 episodes that we've had a chance to do one, but I foresee that if we're going to get to everything, that we will do all the Rock Werchters at some point, even if our listener count drops to complete nothing. Because I feel like we can't do them all in a row. Let's just put it that way. So, with all that being said, let's jump right into the show. The opener of this show is a pretty solid opener. It's only been opened with 11 times in this band's history, and I don't think many since this day, if any. The opener is Do the Evolution. Bit of an issue that I take with this show. You think back to 2010, the last time they played. It's like every 2 years almost. You got 2007, 2010, 2012, 2014, 2018, 2022. So it's a lot in not a lot of time. So they keep jumping back to this fest. And when they play in 2010, the second song in the set is Do the Evolution. And to me, I'm looking at that and I'm like, man, you really had to do it this way? And you couldn't change it up a little bit, give another song another opportunity? Like, it feels too much like the last time that they were there. But when you're talking about the performance, that's beside the fact. This song, they let explode right away to begin the set. So when you're just looking for feel and you're looking for, all right, they're on stage, how are we going to start this? How are we going to react to it? You hear those notes and you're like, oh, jump right in. It's exciting. It's fun because they don't open with it very often. So you do feel like you are getting some kind of nifty here. But it's also tough if you are from Belgium and you can't get to any other European shows, if you can't travel that much. I know it's easier to travel in Europe than it is to travel in the States because things are a little bit closer knit and you can travel by train and all that, but still, I would not be thrilled if you were kind of going shot for shot with the other show. And this is not the only example. There are going to be multiple examples of this throughout this night.
Yeah, I can see your point. Although, on the right side, I would say this is the kind of show that you need this kind of opener, and the European audience is going to give you the kind of reaction that maybe the band needs just to kick it off right away in a festival setting like that. Because I don't know if you guys know, but the majority of the time, 95% of the time, bands are playing and you have clocks on the sides of the stage.
Yeah.
With counters. And they're like, okay, here's your time slotted, go. They're not going to stop for any speech or anything like that. Of course, for security reasons, they will do that. That's the setting. That's the scenario. So the band has a very restrictive period of time. It's kind of like go, don't look back, and do your best. This setting for me does work because it's the European crowd, and the European crowd is going to respond right away. And it's going to give you a little bit of room that maybe you can start to flow towards the next couple of songs a little bit better. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I can't play with the audience too much because my counter is sticking on the sides and I have a time slot that I need to respect because otherwise you're like, hey, see you guys, like, good night.
This is not a long show. This show clocks in at an hour and 37 minutes. And if this episode ends up being longer than that, we are terribly sorry we have not done our job correctly. I don't believe it will be, but I always say if your episode is longer than the actual show itself, then you've done something completely wrong. Except for last week when we were actually watching the show in full, then you did something okay. But still, I think your point is correct. You want to match the crowd's energy. You want the crowd to match your energy, and they come out. Energy is very, very high. European crowds are always going to start really, really hot, and it feels like the people are bonded by the music, and it's less about vibes and atmosphere and like the band being the background to your Instagram photos, which is a common thing among American festival sets. So it's not Coachella or something like that. Like, people play this festival because they know there are hardcore music fans that come to this festival. And you know what? It'll say it later. It'll mention who got the chance to play it, and it's some pretty good names. So after the performance, Got Some is kind of coming out to a false start, but it says, sometimes these big concerts are a lot of work. But afterwards, he says something in what I think is Dutch, if I'm not mistaken. I cannot translate that. I'm not sure what it is. However, if you speak Dutch, I'm going to play it here for you and take a guess as to what could have been said, which is something along the lines of, it's a lot of hard work, but seeing you guys out there makes it all worthwhile, or something like that. See if I'm right.
Hoe komen nach Werchter omdat goed plezant is.
So hopefully we got that right. But the next section here is Got Some, Interstellar Overdrive into Corduroy here. So yeah, Got Some gets out to a false start, but they jump right back in. Sounds fine. We're in the final year of Backspacer being the new album to showcase. I use quotation marks that you can't see, but it does feel very Backspacer era-ish, this show. The album songs that they play are not the deep cuts. It's the four that really got the most play out of all of them. It's this, it's Fixer, it's Unthought, and it's Just Breathe. So it's pretty standard. You're not getting Johnny Guitar anywhere. You're not getting Force of Nature or Speed of Sound anywhere. So you assume it's going to be the ones that they feel are worth keeping. But I think really the crowd is fine on Got Some, and they give them a response on Got Some, but the crowd wants to hear a little Interstellar Overdrive going on Corduroy, because there's a massive clapping section at the beginning, and yes, Corduroy comes off as a massive showstopper for the moment. Sometimes in festival sets, you get a little concerned because they can come out a little bit sluggish sometimes, and maybe it's just because they are paying attention to the crowd and making sure if they're all jumping around or something like that, that nobody's getting hurt. And sometimes they come out and they're a little bit hesitant, but it did not feel like that very early on here, and that's what made Corduroy just fly at this one. That was a fantastic performance, and say what you gotta say. We can talk a little bit more about how Corduroy has evolved as a showstopper song over the years.
Yeah, and it does. And this is exactly what the moment needed. You got those songs where like they're a really good warm up, but even though that you have that intensity starting, you really need that interaction with the audience, where the audience is going to make that song part of the crowd and they're going to celebrate the moment. So I think putting Corduroy on this part of this little run, it's always going to work. It's a very common thing that we get in festivals too. And before you start giving us shit because we were giving Coachella shit, actually Coachella used to be cool before that it was an Instagram background, because they had a really fire lineups in the past, but not anymore. But anyways, what's the next song?
Well, I mean, that's just sort of the American festival now, is that you get some people that, us old fuckers that don't care about, Charlie XCX or something like that, like whoever the popular people trend as. We're just not going to react to those crowds or shows, and it's not for us. But like a festival like Bourbon and Beyond Festival is really good this year. They have some really good names on the bill. So that's one that feels like it's for the music fan. I believe that is a Jack White curated festival, or at least he's putting in his name. Ohana doesn't feel exactly like that. I think, sure, Ohana is for the music, of course, and it's less about the vibes, but it's on a beach, so there's some vibe there. But there is no vibes when it comes to European festivals. And that's why Corduroy at Werchter will feel a lot different than Corduroy maybe at like Bottle Rock or something like that. I'm not saying that Corduroy was not good at Bottle Rock. I don't remember how Corduroy sounded at Pop, but I don't think that you were going to get the intensity of this kind of crowd, and that's why it had so much power on this night. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, Small Town, Given a Fly, and Worldwide Suicide. So let's go back a little bit to the placement of the set here. So Corduroy in 2010 was also the third song. So once again, you have another match. The fifth song in 2010 was Elderly Woman. The fourth song in 2012 is Elderly Woman. So again, they're going back to a very similar well with the first 4 or 5 songs here that was already something that they did the last time they were there. And that, to me, I would be disappointed by that if Rock Werchter is your favorite festival and it's one that you look forward to every year, and if Pearl Jam is your favorite band, then you hope for a new show, and it didn't seem like this was that much of a new show from the very beginning. And yes, there are changes, but there's going to be something else that's pretty major that would make it feel like, okay, it's very similar in comparison to the two shows. But outside of that, I really don't love the placement for Elderly Woman either, because I feel like Corduroy should have led way to a more momentum approaching song instead of having the downswing sing along just yet. I think if you went Given a Fly and Worldwide Suicide before Elderly Woman, that would have worked a lot better. There was just like nitpicky structure issues there, but I don't think they were ready for the sing along just yet.
Part of the issue that I see with this section too is I think Worldwide Suicide is a really good performance on this show, but it shouldn't be the highlight of those three. You know, like to your point, going back, like Small Town should have been the last of those three, so you have a little bit of moment to breathe, and then you have that little break where people can sing along, so you can continue that momentum that Corduroy was initiating when the show was starting on the third, fourth track, whatever set placement was. But although the criticism over the set construction here, I think it's worth to mention how good Worldwide Suicide is in this version. Even though that at this point, a lot of people feel that the song already completed its run, I'm always going to be a fan of that song, and I'm always going to welcome that song whenever it shows up in the set. It feels like the next necessary step for the next combination, because we're going to have the trick of half step down so it can have a little bit of a break too before we get to the punchy stuff that is going to come after the fact.
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm not going to disagree with you on Worldwide Suicide at all. I thought that the driving factor of this was right from the beginning. The EBO sounded phenomenal in the beginning of Worldwide Suicide. I don't know what it was. Maybe it just like felt really crystal clear. And sometimes he can get a little bit sluggish with it, a little bit muddied or something like that. But it just like really took over the stage. It really took over the sound. And I really appreciated that about this version of Worldwide Suicide. But also, I don't want to gloss over this because, again, you're getting a European festival crowd that can sing and is going to sing this whole entire night. Small Town is going to have the chorus on it. And you're going to hear them just belt it out and do their thing. So I think we got to give it the credit that it deserves here, because European crowds will always bring it on this song. Worldwide Suicide and Comatose are back to back. You get a couple of Avocado. I guess that can be considered a little bit of I wouldn't say rarities, but like, okay, a little bit different from usual nights, and Comatose being in the set and then Even Flow following that. I think Comatose would have worked a lot better following Small Town instead of following Worldwide Suicide. It just feels like it's kind of there and it's not building off of anything. It's just, I don't know, it's random in a sense, because Comatose, whenever it's used, its majority of time being used is in Encore number 2, especially when it's in its prime in '06. And the reason why you use it in Encore 2 is like maybe you have like Last Kiss or something like that. It opens up your set, and then you just burst out with some high energy, high octane, Ed screaming at the top of his lungs as being one of the last things he's going to do in the night. And also at a time where the song is really clicking on all cylinders. And that would go into big songs like Alive or Baba or something like that that would follow that. And that worked for that. And seeing it kind of early in the set, it feels like it meanders a little bit. It feels like the power that you were supposed to get out of Comatose doesn't quite stand up because of the momentum that it follows. It was awkward at best, especially because Even Flow is going to blow it the fuck out of the water. This is a phenomenal version of Even Flow. But before Even Flow, what's your thought about all that?
I agree. Comatose is a song that it feels that it should have its own role, but sometimes it feels like they're just throwing in the mix because it fits better because it's half step tuned down or whatever. But I would love to see it back in a setting like it was used in the Avocado time, where it's actually one of the highlights after that kind of like build up or slow section when you have like the whole back power with the band, like really, really playing a rock and roll song. I understand why it's being utilized in this spot, but I think the song is being misused.
They can still have the power with it. In 2012, they weren't at that point where it's like, oh, we can't play this one anymore, which is going to kind of segue into another point that we'll have in a couple of songs, with another song that you should think similarly of. But because of that, I think it still has a place where it can really excel, and that place isn't like early pre-even flow spot. It was just a little odd. But even flow is probably a highlight from this show because I think the solo itself and just the energy and the electricity that comes before the solo is a massive highlight. And I'm not saying the solo is a highlight because it's all just Mike and doing tricks and going crazy out there. It's a highlight because the drive of it is just so powerful. And everybody is clicking on this in some way. And I think Stone changes his role a little bit because he's kind of playing on like a little bit of a lower scale than he usually plays that riff on. So it's balancing really well with how punchy the bass sounds in this, and then the drums sound fantastic like they usually do, and then the crowd, without even any prompting, takes it away to do the final chorus, and you just have this big, massive moment in front of however many thousand fans that are there that feel like it's that many fans there. That's the thing that you want from festivals. You want to feel all of the people that you see instead of see all the people that you see. And you have that. Like we mentioned before, it's not about performance. It's about variety in this.
This song, the rhythm section, is everything. What Jeff, Matt, and Stone are doing on his own, like little groove, like they're completely in their pocket, it's just outstanding. It's like really the drive, the punchiness, how sharp and how aggressive this version is because of those three guys. Yes, you always get Mike because you always get like the solos and the spectacular interpretation and performance that he can give you, but those three guys drive in the pocket here for the rhythm section is definitely the highlight of this version.
Outstanding. It's not your average even flow that feels like it reaches a bar. This exceeds the expectations, especially of the time period where there might feel like there is a fatigue on the song. This song and this version would not make you feel like even flow's fatigued at all. Actually, this would be a complete pick-me-up. So Ed does his traditional make mention to Mike, make mention to Matt, and then introduces the worst song in the band's catalog, which is completely fucked up in the intro. And when they fuck it up, he says, well, that's a completely different song called Oh. Oh is correct. Oh, this one. Ooh. So back to back is really, a winning combo for me. Olay and the Fixer back to back is just not really fun. And it made me kind of think of like a grander scale of what their sound was at the time. Just a microcosm of the clean punkiness that they were utilizing. Like Gotsum feels like a clean punk song. Supersonic feels like a clean punk song. Like Fixer has punkish tendencies, and Olay, I don't think it's a clean sounding song, but it's like kind of like upbeatish. And that's what they were really approaching on Backspacer, was just a clean punk sound. And I don't love that because I'm more of, if you're going to do punk, do it as traditionally as human possible. Like make it sound like Bad Religion, make it sound like The Damned and those kind of bands. When they came out and they did Mind Your Manners after Backspacer's punk renditions, I thought that Mind Your Manners was worlds better than any of those songs that they did on Backspacer because it felt like you were paying homage to the bands that came before you that created that sound. Dead Kennedys. Everybody says that Mind Your Manners is taken straight from that Dead Kennedys playbook. And it's a little bit Dead Kennedys to me. It's also a little bit Bad Religion to me. But they would turn into that. And although that album is not considered to be punk heavy at all, that would kind of be the only punk sounding song on it. Backspacer did make a couple more attempts. And if you're going to do punk, make it raw, especially because this band is really good at providing a raw sound. Especially with Brendan O'Brien, you think that they'd be able to bring it that way. But
Right. Yeah.
it's an awkward dynamic that feels fitting of what you might call the Target era. You know, something that would be like, hey, look, this is punk, but it feels more commercialized.
Yeah, Ole for me is the inception of what later on the lighting bolt idea became a little bit more when it comes to textures and sounds and that kind of idea of trying to be raw and back to basics. I always felt that Ole felt like a song that it was being forced to be played, like the band was really trying to push it towards fans and it never clicked, even though that it takes the name of a very traditional thing in South America when it comes to soccer and celebrations and all that kind of stuff that you may relate to it. I don't think it really works. And I've always thought that it was a good starting point, but not necessarily had to be a single, not even necessarily have to be a B-side. I take the effort that Mind Your Manners later on showed it actually how the band really could sound in a different dimension without Ole being some sort of transition song that it led them through that point. I just think it doesn't work at all. But if you notice around this time period, it was a song that was heavily pushed in this kind of setting just to see how the crowds were going to react to it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a buzzkill. And, you bring that into South American crowds and it feels a little bit like, I don't know, does it feel patronizing? Because it's like, oh, you wrote this song and there's no Ole chance. It's not like Bouncing Souls Ole, where you pay homage to what the chant is. It's just this kind of collection of ramblings and guitar sounds that don't feel meshed together very well, and you just kind of randomly chant it. The music might feel okay if the lyrics weren't so sloppy, but I think that's ultimately the issue, is that the song is kind of just directionless and created basically, for lack of better terms, as pandering model. That's really the ultimate issue. But when you look at the song, it was, like you said, it was created for certain moments. It was created for a certain crowd. The only time they'd play it in America was the debut performance on Fallon. And I know for a fact that that version, Eddie was really, really excited to bring a song that nobody ever heard before to that kind of platform. And that was something he was proud of. So say what you want about it, but yeah, they did want to push it at the time. And thankfully, it was just that time and it wasn't any much moving forward. There was only one more version of the song that happens in South America after this one. So let it die that kind of death, and let's never see it again. And hopefully never speak of it again. Ed dedicates the next song to Jack White, who played at the festival that day, mentions Third Man Records keeping vinyl alive, and that is still happening to this day. Remember, in 2012, there wasn't this desire for vinyl that there is now, and there has been for maybe like the last 6, 7, 8 years. 2012 vinyl was still considered a dinosaur. Everybody just wanted to download MP3s and stream from Apple and stuff like that. So it still meant something for him to say that. And obviously, they've always been big proponents of it. So the song that follows that is Spin a Black Circle, packaging that together with Daughter and Just Breathe. Spin a Black Circle was the point that I wanted to mention before when talking about songs like Comatose that wouldn't sound great in a later era, but they can still play it with the power that it deserves in 2012. Because this version of Spin the Black Circle does not sound like it should in 2012. It's slow, it's a little kind of lackadaisical, it doesn't have the screams, it doesn't have the intensity, and they were capable of doing all of that. But I wonder if they're being cognizant of maybe Ed's range during it, because he does not sound like he has it during this. And I thought he sounded great during the first 10 songs or so, but not Spin the Black Circle. It just, to me, it did not do him any favors. It did not do the band any favors in this.
You can tell that there's a little bit of fatigue going on, but I think the song really loses the edge too. It's one of those songs that it has to be the right BPMs, it has to be the right tempo. If not, it doesn't work. But I will appreciate the band just to grab that song and just play it in the way that it should be, because for such an important meaning around those years about okay, Jack White is still continuing with the record label and vinyl is still out, and it's something that is so meaningful for so many people that have been getting vinyl since it was not a thing. Defeats the purpose. Such a cool story, such a powerful message deserves a better performance of a song that it has such a strong connection with that kind of thing.
Yeah, and look, it's not like every version of Spin the Black Circle would sound like this following it, but you'd hope that in a set where there aren't going to be a lot of those kind of songs, that this one would be a massive standout, and it just wasn't. So, Daughter, Just Breathe, following that, Daughter's got another brick in the wall tag on it with some lyrics changed to Police, Leave Those Kids Alone. Good performance, nothing noteworthy coming from it, but very solid in the middle of the set. But that's just kind of the way that festival sets go sometimes, is that you just need songs like Daughter because you're going to get the whole crowd doing and doing the We Don't Need No Thought Control and all that. And then the complete change of pace comes getting the acoustic out there with the crowd kind of acting as a choir and singing along to Just Breathe really, really well. But look, last week when we did Rio, we talked about how 2011 was the end of the bass on that song. And my curiosity, was that going to extend into the years that follow? I know after 2014, it would never happen again, but maybe there's a 2013 version out there where they've done it. It's not happening in this one in 2012, and they played it a lot this year. So I think pretty much you can expect no bass when it comes to Just Breathe in this tour here. And it's a shame. It's a shame, but it just means we need to listen to more 2009 shows on this podcast, right? Was that
Do we have another option?
2010?
Well, hey, but you know what? The highlight of this too is actually Mike plays in Just Breathe. That
Yeah, but he doesn't do much.
I know. I was gonna say it's like that 2-second part that he does.
It's like
But
boom. It's basically doing what a regular bass would do. It's just bum 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 bum. And
Mhm.
that's it. It's not special. But onward we go. 3 more songs before we get into the encore, and they're heavy hitters. It's Why Go, Jeremy, and Better Man, which is a fantastic way to finish off a main set in a festival setting. The 10 songs feel really big at this show. Why Go, just massive crowd response, but Jeremy is going to be the one that channels all of the early set energy that we got with Corduroy and those kind of songs. Boring choices to the dedicated fan for sure, but there are people in that audience that, okay, maybe they are there because they listen to 10. And maybe that's just why they like Pearl Jam. And maybe they would never see Pearl Jam if it wasn't in a festival. And that stuff does matter. I think when we are within our community, we kind of think that those people that exist out there, like, they shouldn't be putting on shows for them, but they put on shows for everybody as much as they can. And the 10 songs are vital in that way. And Jeremy is just massive on this. Like, what else can you say? We know what the song's impact is. And when you play it before closing out a main set, you're going to get everybody invested in jumping up and down in it. And that's pretty much what it was. But I think the story comes from Better Man here. The crowd sings the intro to Better Man. Mind you, it's before they're cued to do it, because really when Ed starts the song, they cheer for a second and then start singing instead of that like pause and then sing. They just sing right away.
Normally I wouldn't, sometimes you ask for, some guys come up and they ask for too much singing, but goddamn if you don't sound good. Sorry. Normally, waiting, watching the clock is
the crowd makes it a moment with the band, and the performance is pretty on point, befitting to the huge crowd.
This is the time where, like, if you're wrapping up that first half of your set or whatever time you have, I don't think the point should be the performance or anything. It's just like that interaction with the audience where actually the audience takes the lead here. The singing is great. You can really tell that the crowd is all in with the band. And at this point, I think the song selection becomes like a secondary thing. Like the biggest highlight for me as of now for this little section is just how invested the crowd is. Like it doesn't matter what they're playing at this point. It's a celebration. And then the rest is just comes to more like a statistical thing at the end.
Yeah, and I think that's why the band ultimately decides to do this festival, because they know that they're going to get the response. And sometimes it's just kind of an ego boost just to hear a crowd react like this, because it's going to feel different. It's going to hit differently. So they know that they don't have to play something from the B side of Binaural to get people invested, to get people to care. And they don't have to worry about, are we going to fuck this one up? And we don't know it that well. We haven't been playing it a whole lot. You just play what they know, play what they're comfortable with, and let that thing ride. So that's how we end the main set. Let's pause for station identification to talk about the things that we usually talk about at this point on Patreon. Hey, if you're liking the chronology series, then boy, I came up with an idea this past weekend for 2027 that I think is going to get a lot of people really excited. And it will be something that will involve everybody, not just people that join up on Patreon, but I think we're going to get as many people involved and have a good interaction on this podcast that maybe we haven't had before, because it does feel like we have been lacking the fan interaction on this. And do it because it is very time consuming to edit, to take care of all of it, to prepare for all of it. So sometimes, especially in the summer like this, there's a lot going on and we're not putting emphasis on that. But perhaps that might change when it comes to not just 2027, but maybe shortly after we're done with the series, because we have almost no plans after September. After Ohana, there's a lot of question marks. So if we put this together, we might be able to get something really cool out of it. We'll find out as time comes, but it's something to look forward to. The ideas are still flowing, the ideas are still coming together. We still want to put together the content for Patreon. We'll still work on that. I'm leaving the ball to Javi to do the gear garage, and hopefully we can get some of that soon. I'm not in control of that.
I'm running out of excuses. I'm sorry. Yeah, that has been on me. It's been on the radar for a while, and yeah, we need to get that done. Oh, when I said we, I meant me. I need to get that done.
Well, it's sometimes up to me to push a little bit too, but I got to push myself. That's a big thing. And, I think a lot of it also is that if we're not seeing the response, kind of like what we're saying before, then we can take a little bit of a step back, because if people aren't going to share with us that, they listen to the episode that we did on the House of Blues show where Stone wasn't on the stage, if we don't hear people and their response from that, then we don't think anybody listens. So we're not going to be like, hey, we really need to up our game for Patreon for this. So that's a huge aspect. That's a huge aspect that we are going to dig into when the time comes, but is very, very busy next couple months. And getting the normal everyday weekly episodes out will be very much priority. But if you want to support what we're doing with that, if you want to support the website cause, if you want to support just anything that happens on tour that we put money towards and put funding towards, then Patreon is the way to do it. Head over to patreon.com/live on four legs. You can join on one of three tiers. The $3 tier is going to get you all the content over there. The $5 tier is going to get you an episode request, and the $10 tier is going to get you a profile episode plus a website credit, plus it's just going to go into everything that we're doing. And hopefully, when the time comes, we'll do a little bit of a merch package and put that together for you guys. And that will be available to the highest tier available, meaning the Horizon tier. So, we appreciate everybody coming in. And actually, I kind of forgot this, but we do have some new patrons this week. One returning patron, and that would be Patrick Wetzels, that I believe was a Patreon like a couple years ago. So he's back. So thank you so much to Patrick. And also Mark E has joined up on the Gigaleg tier. That's the middle tier there. So we have to get back to the Gigaleg tier people and the Horizon Leg tier people, and get those episodes requests in. That'll be a huge part of what I was just mentioning before with the next step for what this podcast is going to go through. So, Mark, if you're listening, big thank you. And also, we owe you. So, get in touch with us, because it's tough to get in touch with everybody. So, we want to hear from you guys and get your opinion on what we should be covering in the future. And that'll help so, so much. So, like I said, patreon.com/live on four legs, or you know what, go to liveonfourlegs.com, because all of the 2025 Concertpedia articles are posted now. You can go to the Concertpedia page and go to the 2025 section and read through all of them. They are all available, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed the write-ups. And a big thank you to all of our writers: Aaron Redman, Jason Weiss, Patrick Bogle, Mike Cribber, and Brian Harwitz. And I guess a thank you to me, because I wrote something, but really none needed. But yes,
Thanks, Randy.
thanks. I appreciate that. See, okay, maybe something was needed. As long as I get it from Javi, then I'm all good. But yeah, it's a labor of love doing all that, and we are currently working on 2010, and yeah, that's the process we'll go through for the next couple months until we get those shows all taken care of. So, what else we got? I think that's it. I think we can go into the encore now and get back into the rock. What do you say?
Before we continue, like if somebody else out there, like they have like a specific ideas for the Gear Garage, or there's something that you want to listen to, throw it our way too. that'll be more exciting because sometimes like you misread comments or you kind of forget about certain things that are important for the fans too. So yeah, just let us know. I will be super intrigued and welcoming new ideas too.
If you don't say it, it don't happen. That's right. So, all right, officially, let's get back into the rock. Ed comes out and he says he's speechless among the crowd, chanting for them. With how many aspiring musicians out there, there's sure a lot of inspiration that was up on the stage tonight, including X, who I believe toured with Pearl Jam the entire European run, Mastodon, Jack White, and Gossip. And he says, for anyone who's a musician, all I can wish is for a healthy and happy and long life. Don't stay in school. Oh, well, my kids aren't here, so he makes a joke about that. He says, I wish someday you'll be able to stand up here and see something like this. And that's pretty cool of him to say. Unthought Known and Public Image are going to be packaged here together. Unthought Known gets started and gets a big clapping section. Again, it's at the point where everybody kind of knows that this is the song with one of the most staying power on the record, and people react to it accordingly. I don't think that The Fixer and Got Some get the same kind of response from this show that Just Breathe and Unthought Known do. So you know kind of where the crowd stands with a song like this. Great performance. You get everything you want from it, and positivity abound. But Public Image, I think, is a talking point here because I'm going to go back to one of the storylines that we've been talking about, one of the themes that we've been sharing in the show, and that is when it comes to the similarities between this set list and the 2010 set list. So in 2010, Public Image is the opener of that show. And it's also one of the rarest songs that they play in Werchter altogether. So you look at Live Footsteps here, you look at this page with all of the festival shows that have happened in Belgium. It says the most played song is Why Go, and the rarest song altogether from all these shows is Public Image, which they play twice. They play Of the Earth at the last show, so there's not completely nothing. That's a weird structure of a set list that I'm looking at, though. 11 main set songs, then 5 in Encore 1 and then 4 in Encore 2. That's very strange, but again, you're kind of getting, like Javi was saying before, you're getting kind of time constraint here. But to bust this out as the rarest song again, it's a little tough because, for one, this isn't like a massively celebrated Pearl Jam cover. It's just not. It's Public Image Ltd., the spin-off of the Sex Pistols, which I can get into a point on that in a second. But there is a reason why they are playing it here. I had to look this up. The first ever Public Image show was played in Brussels in 1970. So there is history there. It must be a nod to that. I don't know if that's something that is celebrated or widely known in Belgium, but it's very clear that Ed and maybe somebody else in the band do know that. So they feel, I guess, in a similar way of playing I Believe in Miracles down in Brazil and Argentina and those places, that they feel like they got to play it here because there is a connection, but it's hard to connect to this song. It just, I don't know. It doesn't have the same it quality that a lot of other covers has. Maybe it's me, and maybe it's because I never truly cared for the song. And Javi, you and I were talking about this before we recorded. You kind of feel the same way about Arms Aloft. I happen to actually like the song Arms Aloft a lot, but it has the same exact stigma around it where nobody really reacts to it because they don't know how to react to it. They don't really know the song too well because it doesn't show up too often outside of one specific era. But yeah, this just doesn't do a whole lot. And it doesn't feel like it gets too over with this crowd either. There's at least not a lot of moments in the song that makes it feel like the crowd can respond accordingly.
Yes, I feel that the band utilizes this cover more as like kind of like Gaia moment for their sets because it's so rarely known. Really hardcore connoisseurs are gonna know the song perhaps for any sort of connection with punk background. I don't know. I understand the connection. I understand why it was decided to be played, but it never translated in the reaction that I think the band wanted to create over this song, and it never did. And I think that's why it slowly started to be kind of forgotten over the years too, and it belongs into this very specific time period, and it just doesn't do it for me.
You want to hear something funny?
Sure.
Okay, so Riot Fest, big punk festival in Chicago, and maybe it's not even that much. It's a lot of punk, but like Alanis Morissette's also like headlining it, so it's odd. It's like Bad Religion, Descendants, and all these like legendary punk bands, but then it's like 21 Pilots too. Like, okay, well, I'll go and see some of the second stage bands that are really good. But it's very funny because both the Sex Pistols and Public Image Ltd are on that bill. So it's Johnny Rotten and sharing a bill with the Sex Pistols, which I'm sure was done kind of on purpose of like, let's see if we can get the two in the same spot. But I just thought that was kind of funny. All right, bread and butter time. Your last three songs of this show are Alive, Rockin' in the Free World, and of course, Yellow Ledbetter. It's always going to go down smooth at the festival shows. Alive has a whole lot of energy. It has a whole lot of yeah chants and all the big moments that you expect from that. I do think that the highlight of the three is Rockin' in the Free World, though. You have a special guest coming in on it. It's Jerry Harrison of the Talking Heads that joins for Rockin' in the Free World. Mike and Jeff swap instruments at some point in this, so the very rare Mike on bass, believe that, it's just not something you see every day, but it's not Mike or Jeff that impresses here. It is Stone that is front and center. He usually rips a phenomenal solo on Rockin' in the Free World, and this one is just right up there. Just so much Stone talent, improvisation. Like, he's not known to do this very often, but when he does, you see something out of him that's like, wow, he could be a lead guitarist in any other circumstance, and it could really, really work out really well.
That the Stone was like playing with the show, it's just like it tells you a lot too, and I think this is a good reflection of how well he played on the show too, because I think it's a very, very good show by Stone. I think I said that in the beginning of the show, but great wrap up. Like, it's just your bread and butter, like you said. People have this celebration, people have that community with the band in a lot of songs, and they really ended up like closing out like in a very very high level. And then you got your Embrace of Goodbye, which is Yellow Light Better, which you can go home sort of in peace. It's not your setting sun, but if if you want to talk about that, or if you want to listen to those comments, like you would listen maybe to a different episode when we rant about setting sun.
Yeah, anytime it gets brought up, it'll be ranted about for sure. But yeah, that is our festival set list right there. Not too bad. You got some moments, you got some fun stuff, but ultimately, like we were saying before, it is what is expected from these type of nights. So, with that being said, let's pick 3 moments that stand out above the rest.
Ooh, I think we're gonna have a clear one on number one. Maybe. We'll see. My number three is gonna be Rockin' because I really like that version. And Stone is having a great night. Continuation of that is gonna be Why Go, because again, is Stone having a great night. And number one is because Stone is having a great night, which is gonna be
Olay.
no, it won't never be that song. Uh it's gonna be Even Flow. What a groove, man! What a pocket they created on that solo section. That was insane.
Oh yeah, you're onto something there. My number 3 here is gonna be Corduroy, and tack on that Interstellar Overdrive intro as well. And number 2, I thought you were gonna take Worldwide Suicide, so I'm gonna give that the credit because I was really feeling that intro on Worldwide Suicide on this. This was a very solid performance. I'm gonna give that my number 2. And I am right there in agreement with you. It is Even Flow for number 1 because this is not a dime a dozen type performance. This was, let's show you everything that we got and make it feel like it's everlasting. And yeah, that is the top moment of this. So with that being said, now let's put the rating on it. What does this festival get? How do we conduct the review? You know, we can't compare it to other headlining gigs, but can you compare it to other festival gigs? I don't know. It'll be very tough to see where we stand. That's why I give it to you first so I can see what you say and then react.
Thanks, I guess. It is tough because you want to be fair. And I've always felt that this kind of setting is not going to show like the true colors of the band. But what I feel is fair, though, is if I compare the same setting to the same performance to different festivals, I think that's what it feels fair to me. If I have to measure it from that point of view, this is a really good show. Performance wise, interpretation wise, it's great. Like I said before, the band has this really cool edge that I really really like around this time. Based on that, that's where I need to go with that. And for me, it sits very solidly in an 8.5. But I can't compare it with an arena show. I just can't do that. It's like a different ball game, you know.
So, what's your actual rating on this?
I will say it 8.5. I'm comfortable there because
Wow.
if I see different shows, if I will have the pile of the shows, I think this is high up. But you can't compare it with like a arena show. You can't do that.
Yeah, there is no comparison to that. That eight and a half is high. I usually, my standard, if you have reached all the expectation levels and like, it didn't feel like they were just going through the motions and the crowd felt really good. Like, my standard on that is 7. I think that's where you begin. And then like 7.5 is for like, okay, well, they changed up a little bit here. And then 8 is for like, okay, there's some memorable moments here. 8.5, you get to that too. And 9 is just like, okay, this is bigger than a festival set. This is like Ohana level territory, so to speak. But yeah, I'm at 7 on this. I think the performance was good, really good. But I would have liked to see variety and a little bit more substance with maybe like getting a no code song in there, or getting a Riot Act song in there, something like that. Personally, I would be disappointed if I saw this show, especially at this time period when I was a little bit more salty than I am now. Give me a good performance now, and I'm pretty happy. Especially, I'll go into a festival with the expectation. Bourbon and Beyond. That's a really good example. I went to Bourbon and Beyond a couple years ago, and that was a fine show for what it was. They played some deeper stuff. They played like In Hiding and Off He Goes, and it felt a little bit more substantial than something like this did. But it wasn't like this out of this world show at all. However, it can't live up to what the Nashville show beforehand or the St. Louis show afterwards brought to the table at all. So that's where I stand with this one, getting a 7. I think it is fair, and I think that it represents festival sets quite well. But it's not anything more than that. All right. So next week we can promise you this. It'll be a full show. It will probably be a show that's a 3-hour show, because most of these 2013 shows are 2.5 plus, getting into 2:45, 3-hour. Like, that's really the bar that they're setting for that time period. And my hope for this episode was going to be that we were going to have something happen that we could play off of. That's okay, this is happening currently, and let's go back to this episode and kind of talk about the storyline. But that thing didn't happen because we were counting on the Oklahoma City Thunder reaching the NBA Finals for this to work in this aspect. But since we are in the NBA Finals, even though it's the Spurs and not the Thunder, we will still do this Oklahoma City show because it is going to be heavily, heavily about the Sonics leaving town and the owners jetting with Seattle's team. And I think it's important story to tell. I think it's important for this band that has always been kind of, especially the early on, like defined by their basketball fandom. And that has felt like it's tapered off in latter years for sure. But, it's still, they still give out basketballs as merchandise. So that is something that you can attach to it. But the Supersonics were a massive part of this band, and just the landscape of Seattle too. So it's a good storyline to discuss. It's the lightning bolt era really getting kicked off, and I feel like that second leg on the West Coast and the Midwest doesn't get discussed as much as some of the East Coast stuff does, and maybe that's based off of where I live, but I think we do owe it to those who are massive Supersonic fans and maybe who are massive Thunder fans too, to take care of that storyline. That's what we're going to do. OKC from 2013, moving along the concert chronology for next week. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening in. And guess what? We did not go over the allotted time for what the show was at an hour and 37 minutes. We fell short of that, thank goodness. But I will say this, if you do like this and you like the length of this, I do too. I like the shorter episodes. It gets in, gets out. It's a shorter edit, and it's great. If you like it, then subscribe on any platform you're choosing, especially YouTube. We can use the YouTube subscribers right now, but subscribe on Apple, subscribe on Spotify, or anywhere else that you get your podcasts. And if you are on any of those platforms and you feel fit to leave a comment, say something nice, leave a rating, and get our name out there, help beat the algorithm, because we hate the algorithm. So we need to beat it. We need to tell the algorithm that people enjoy this, that people want this. Tell them that. Don't stay silent. If you like it, say something. And I mean that, because it helps us so much. Probably helps us more than the donation to Patreon, to be honest with you. So keep on that. We'll keep on doing what we do, and we'll just continue this lovely community that we've helped build and, make it all about everybody communicating together. So thank you all so much. And we're going to wrap this one up right now. This may be the end. We're here, but not for much longer. Although we may be parting ways. Miss you already. Miss you always. So we got a lot of thunder rumbling in for next week. And yeah, that's all I got for that. So I'll leave you off with this little final bit. Always love Jamaica. So for next week, we will see you on the pod.
See you next week.